Well, this should be fun, Josh. It was great meeting you, and I'm super happy to have you on our Leaders Who Care series in this new year. So welcome.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, Mark. It's nice to be here.
Yeah, thanks. I know we were just talking about tennis and hockey matches where you'll cream us in tennis, and then we'll have to get back to you in hockey or something like that. But good athletics conversation, and I guess the best way to start here, though, would be if you could briefly introduce yourself. We'll get into all the tennis and all the good things that you're doing, but first about Josh, like where you're from originally, where you are now, family, maybe something you've never told anybody ever that you want to tell the world
Yeah.
about now. I don't know. Yeah, tell us about you.
Yeah, so I'm currently living in New Jersey, but I trained down in Florida. But I've actually lived a majority of my life outside the United States. So I was born in Japan. Then I moved to Abu Dhabi for a couple of years, and now I've been in America for around about 11, 12 years. So my life has been, great to just immerse myself in different cultures. My parents are also from New Zealand and one's from Korea, so it's nice to just have like a cultural melting pot, my dad calls it, my house. So, no, it's been great to have that experience, especially as a kid and now too.
I saw a video the other day about this guy from England, and he's talking to this Asian gal, and he's saying, "Where are you from? Where are you from?" And she said, "Somewhere in the U.S." And she said, "No, but where are you
Mhm.
from?" Have
Yeah,
you seen that?
no,
Um,
I haven't, but that sounds like a question that I get asked quite often. Not
Yes,
gonna
and
lie.
and she says, and she says Korean. He says something like, "Oh, I knew it was either Japan or Korea." The guy's like an
Yeah.
idiot, and and finally she goes back at him and saying, "Well, where are you from?" And he says somewhere. She says, "No, where are you from?" And he says his ancestry is Ireland, and she starts talking about, "Oh, you mean chicken pot pie and all this crazy
Yeah.
stuff." It's hilarious. I'll send you the video. It just makes fun of the whole thing about but where you got to have this perfect stereotype of something. But what were you like as a kid? Now that you're a big kid, what were you like as a kid?
I think like every kid, I just wanted to try every single sport under the sun. Um, you know, my life revolved around, going from soccer practice to American football practice and ending the day on the basketball court. So during the
Oh,
fall and springtime, I would be running around like a headless chicken just playing sports. At the same time, I would be practicing my piano, which is I thought was kind of like a decompressor. I used to do that quite a lot. I was actually quite curious as a kid. So every single place I'd go to, I'd keep something from my backyard, and I still have that collection with me somewhere in my room, I think. But no, I just liked going out and exploring, and that's something that I like doing too as a kid.
no, that's cool. How did you and when did you know that you want to do like focus on tennis versus football versus piano versus whatever?
Yeah, so it was the summer of my eighth grade, which is quite late because I know I started doing online school around ninth grade. I was actually watching a tennis match and I was thinking, my gosh, like I want to be that one day. And this was during the US Open, and I took my mom and dad aside and I was like, hey, I really want to focus on my tennis. My friends were all really good soccer players, really good football players, but I didn't really see a tennis player. So I thought, hey, I like this sport. Why not go for it?
And you weren't really playing as a little kid tennis much?
I was like here and there, your occasional once a week lesson. But at that point, I made a change. I mean, I always had pretty solid hand-eye coordination just from other sports, but that's when I realized, hey, like let's put all chips on tennis. And that's probably the best decision I've made because it's been such a good part of my life.
Yeah, I used to watch Federer, and I was always amazed when he'd go like 3 sets, 4 sets. I mean, he'd go till the
Oh
end
my goodness.
and just
Yeah.
so consistent in his play, even as tired mentally or physically as he had to be.
Yeah. No, I agree.
Did you have a favorite tennis player?
I mean, at first it was Roger Federer too, because I was thinking to myself, like, I want to play as beautiful as him. But now it's probably Djokovic. I just like his grittiness and his determination. I think it's so admirable. And, not only that, he's just like a competitor. Like I don't know how to describe it. He will win, if that makes sense.
No, it makes total sense. He's fierce warrior, basically.
Yeah.
Although I don't know if you've ever seen film or whatnot of John McEnroe, he was like, yelling at the umpires and all sorts of stuff all the time. And it's a great sport. How many tennis rackets you have?
In my bag right now, probably around about eight. I pop one every day, so I have to have around a good round of rackets. Yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. I'd love you to share your experiences when, you've been engaged as a student athlete, which is a
Yeah.
special thing. You know, um, what you accomplished at Learn at the ICL community, I mean, academy.
Yeah. Um, so the way I look at it, as a student athlete, I think it's important to realize that students should always come first because I personally believe that if you get yourself right off the court, it's very easy to get yourself right on the court. Like if you have a compiling amount of schoolwork and you're trying to go compete in a tennis match or some sort of practice, you'll feel that stress on you, and you might not realize it at first, but you really do feel it. And as a student athlete, I also think the hard work I have from my tennis helps me actually study a little bit better, in the classroom too. So, that's the benefits of being a student athlete, I guess.
Yeah, great answer. It's almost like you play as you play like you practice a little bit.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, no, 100%.
Yeah, I've had the opportunity of being around a lot of hockey athletes and whatnot, and certainly play like you practice, but also the ones that seem to have the longest, most successful careers have a regiment or whatnot of how to be as character, as persons, etc. So sounds like that's what you're clear about. There's a book called it's written by a military guy called um I can't remember the exact name, but basically making your bed is the first thing you should do in the morning. And
Yeah.
do you know that? Have you heard of it?
No, but I know that saying.
Yeah. It becomes your first accomplishment and everything goes from there type of deal. Um, I use sports analogies, as you can probably tell already from all my experiences playing and coaching hockey. Tell us a little bit more how you do relate your on off court life to your overall life.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that because I remember Roger Federer giving a speech at the Dartmouth, I think, graduation where he was talking about how he's won 80% of his matches, but he's run around about 55, 53% of points he's ever played. Now, if that doesn't show you that every point, like it matters to an extent, but if you let it consume you, I think that's when you can kind of realize, like, I've already lost. Does that make sense? I feel like
100%.
that really, really matters in life too, because if you let yourself get down on so many things that can kind of compile up, you can't really move on. And that's something that I've learned through tennis is like it's just one point and it's just a yellow fuzzy ball. If you let it control you that much, how are you going to expect when something major happens outside the court to really, impact you and you're going to be down in the dumps? And I think that's something that tennis has really showed me is like it's one point and take it one at a time. And if it doesn't go your way, there's always going to be another. So
I love that. It's just a fuzzy yellow ball.
yeah,
And doesn't have eyes on it or anything.
no, it doesn't speak to you. It's not alive. It's just a yellow fuzzy ball.
That's fantastic. One of my sons is a goalie, a hockey goalie, and he was taught the same thing. You've got 2 seconds to feel bad about the goal you let in, and now if you keep going, you're going to let in a lot more goals after that,
Yeah.
because you're not focused, et cetera, et cetera. So, and it really does apply to life. Didn't you find, I mean, that training helped you in just overall?
Yeah, I think just learning perseverance and discipline are the two greatest lessons any athlete probably ever learns. Because you see a majority of high level athletes, they're always doing something off the court that requires that same amount of perseverance and discipline. I mean, I look at Djokovic, for example, right? He has his own nonprofit for preschoolers. I mean, that takes a lot of work and effort, but at the same time, he knows what he wants to accomplish.
Yeah, that there's I guess it's a combination of getting your mind off of the stress and whatnot of the playing with other stress and impact you're making off and really having purpose. I'm sure you may have heard the term people define themselves by things that happen or things that they do, but a lot of athletes have learned that they're not defined just as a tennis player or defined just
Yeah.
as this. They've got a bigger life beyond that. Is that kind of how you feel?
Yeah, I think, if I told myself a year ago I'd be sitting down and talking about this, I'd be totally surprised. But I think being an athlete and people looking up to you, whether it's, in your hometown or a local community. It's important just to like set an example. I think that's extremely important and just, lead the community in a good way.
What, thinking back to when you were a kid, what makes you think it's so important?
Um, I think having a role model is extremely important, especially as a teenager. And, if you're going through, even in your 20s, it's important to have somebody to look up to. Because, it's no one gets to play life twice. You play life once. And it's important to look at people that might have been through the same experiences you have and say, hey, what do I do here? Or hey, how do I do this? And I don't know if you remember at the Brand Innovators event, I actually called out my dad as one of my inspirations, and I always ask him, he might have not been the high level tennis player, but he might have some advice on, hey, like, how do I best approach the situation? And that's why I think role models are so important.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Well, you're currently leading an initiative at the ICL Foundation on, and I quote, education and training of the world's most exceptional youth.
Yeah.
What does that entail as an ICL fellow, as a tennis coach, and with that, after you answer that, what do you envision ahead for you?
So the first part of the question, I think that ICL really does stand for representing kids who really do have a passion for what they want to do, but also have the personality where they want to take that passion on the court or whatever passion you have and bring that off the court. I mean, you look at the people that are real champions at our school, the ICL champions and mentors, they all are really good at something, but they also want to influence their platform across all other broad aspects. I mean, we have Novak Djokovic, as I mentioned before, Monica Seles. They are all extremely involved in helping the champions of tomorrow. And I think that's something that, you know, I I want to do one day. That's your second part of your question, where I really feel like I want to be a voice for people that might not have a voice, who need help, who need resources. And, I'll give you an example. I did mention it at the Brand Innovators event, but my friend, I'll just call him Jack. I don't want to use his name, but, he has an electric scooter. He drives to practice 2 hours on it and takes a bus for an hour. And I tell you what, every single day, his smile lights up a room. And I tell you, like, he will never miss practice. He's always happy. He always wants to hit a ball. And I think that's something that's really admirable. And that's who the people we want to help.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. It does come through, and it does make an impact on people. And if you think about it, why wouldn't you want to be that way? You
Of
know?
course not. Yeah.
And it's pretty incredible. Um, what did it take to tell us a little bit about ICL and what it took to be a fellow?
Yeah. So ICL is, people can get quite confused because they know ICL Academy and ICL Foundation. If I could relate it to something, if you could envision a tree, so the ICL is kind of like the trunk and the ICL Academy is a branch. And the ICL Academy started around about 20 years ago by Kirk Spawn to kind of teach kids leadership and, empower those who want to learn more about how to be more active in the community. And the ICL Academy only started around about 4 or 5 or 6 years ago now. And I studied there for 4 years. I got a great school. They have AP courses, everything like that. It's a great place to study. But that's kind of what it is. It's the ICL Foundation is kind of the ICL Academy, sorry, is an extension of the foundation.
Pretty cool. And did somebody tell you about it, or did it come about because someone saw you play tennis, or how did that happen?
Yeah, so the ICL Academy came to me, I think, around about 4 or 5 years ago because somebody that I know at my tennis academy in New Jersey, he was sending his kids there, and we were one of the original students. And I thought to myself, it was during COVID, so like, why not? Why not go online? Spend more time on the tennis court. You have the time now. So it's been great just to have that flexibility.
Yeah, pretty cool. And I guess you're around other good people at the same time.
Yes. Oh, 100%. Yes, that's for sure. I think the student body there, they all want to try to help out outside of the classroom and outside of the tennis court or whatever passion they're doing.
Yeah, I did meet I guess the CEO and Mr. Spawn at the Brand Innovators event too, and they're pretty impressive as
Yeah.
as well. Um, talk a little bit more also about using sports as your platform for positive change. There's a reason we call this Leaders Who Care. It's because we're putting out the mindset more and more and more that leaders come from all different backgrounds, from all different locations, from all different ages, you name it, heads of corporations, heads of what I call social profits, because I don't like the term nonprofit, and or young people like yourself and even younger than yourself that are doing really good things out there. How do you talk about how you feel about making a positive change? You've talked about it a little bit, but also using your platform as most really good athletes do in a positive way.
Yeah, so the great thing about having a platform is not only reaching other athletes, but reaching other people that might understand the same goals that you want to achieve. I think that coming from an athlete's perspective, you might think, oh, athletics is just all about, oh, we only care about wins or losses. We only care about how high your UTR can get. But in reality, I've met a lot of athletes that really do want to help out other people because maybe they know what it feels like to go through some sort of, hardship.
Mm-hmm.
Because a majority of athletes have to sacrifice quite a lot, you know. But I also do think that using a platform because of my athletics is important just to spread what's out there. What can we do? Because I've had the pleasure of traveling for my tennis, and I've seen some people that are really struggling to meet ends meet. I mean, I've been to countries like Dominican Republic, Nicaragua, and I see how it is, and I want to help them out, and I want to like I want them to have a voice. That's what I'm trying to say. And that's why, I'm talking here to you about how we can be a doer and help out communities.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. Yeah, because we can make a difference. One person at a time, you can make a big difference, without a doubt. Um, one thing we say about LA is we want to keep people wanting more so we can do a sequel. So we may have to do a sequel at some point here. But I do want to ask you one more question. And this part is, with everything that's gone on with respect to, 2020 pandemic you mentioned, and it's already now 2025, and so many things are going on around the world, and a lot of mental health issues with young people too and whatnot. What are you most grateful for? And also, what are you most hopeful for?
I think I'm grateful to have a support unit at ICL that you can openly talk about how you're feeling because I know when I get stressed, I tend to bottle up like probably around about 95% of teenage boys. But I realize that talking about it to your deans or to Ara, for example, about the stress that I feel sometimes, even from college admissions, I'm trying to figure that out as we speak. But I mean, it's just important to talk about it. And I think that's the most important thing that I've learned. I'm grateful enough to have a family support unit too, where I can talk to them about what I'm stressed about and how they can best help me.
Hmm.
And I guess what I'm looking forward to is, I guess, this kind of like new age of voice. I mean, you talked about how you were having, youthful leaders come on your podcast and talk about what they can bring to the table. I think that's so important because in reality, 20, 30 years down the road, hopefully we'll be the voice that, the next generation will look towards. So I think that instilling good habits of just talking about things, and then eventually doing them is something that I'm really looking forward to.
Awesome. Well, I'll tell you, I'm grateful that you're a leader who cares, and a new friend too, which is always great.
Yeah, thank
Um,
you.
and I think I'm hopeful for the same thing, actually, that the way you articulate, the way you present yourself, respectful, um, articulate, as I said, and authentic is really special. So I appreciate you for that, and I appreciate you for being on the series. Thanks.
Thank you, Mark.